Hi, thank you for joining me here in Life Expressions. I'm Chari Hinete Elon. Today we're going to talk about special education, and we're going to talk to a special education teacher in Tucson, Arizona. She's quite happy there, and she's going to talk about her life there. But allow me to introduce to you my guest today. She has experience working with children with special needs, ages 3 to 16, for 15 years. Currently, she's a sixth grade inclusion teacher and IEP advocate of Pistor Middle School in Tucson, Arizona. She has a Master of Arts in Education, major in Special Education at University of Negros Occidental, Recoletos. She has a Bachelor of Arts major in Psychology at University of St. LaSalle. She was an associate professor in many universities in Bacolod City, founding president of Bacolod Sped UC Society. It's an exclusive organization for special education teachers and student teachers taking a bachelor's degree in special education. And in 2012, she was president of JCI Bacolod, and she won the most outstanding local president of Junior Chamber International Philippines in the same year. Mind you, it's one thing to be president of JCI local chapter, it's another big feat to be the most outstanding president of the local chapter. She is also the 2016 chairperson of Bacolod City Alay Lakad. She was involved in numerous community programs regarding special education, like autism spectrum disorder, leadership and influences, personality development. She gave seminars on this as well. She was with the Hope Volunteers Foundation Incorporated Cleft Rehabilitation Center and Operation Smile International Philippines. Well, to put it bluntly, she was very active when she was back home. And now I would dare say she is still very much active wherever she is now. Please welcome to Life Expressions my friend Martha Rose Isiderio-Gutierrez. Hi, Miss Martha.
Hi, hello, Chari. Actually, I'm not used to call you Chari because we're used to press Chari, right?
Yes.
We call each other press Chari. It's a protocol for JCI. So I'm
Yes.
doing exceptionally well, and I really can't complain at all at this point in time. And how about you? How's Canada so far?
Oh, Canada is, shall I say, the best country to live in. I'm so happy here, but I'm happy to see you doing great there in Arizona, USA. So,
Yes, sir.
so how has things been?
There are a lot of changes so far, and this is going to be my second school for the second year. So
Mhm.
basically, I'm gonna talk about my work here in Arizona.
Yes.
So technically, I'm a sixth grade inclusion teacher here in Tucson, Arizona. So primarily, um, the children I teach are around 11 to 12 years old. So Tucson Unified School District is one of the biggest school district in the United States. So composed of 89 school in one school district. Imagine 89 school.
Wow.
Yes, it's
Wow.
really huge. So what I mean by inclusion is that I am the co-teacher of 5 general education teachers in 2 math, in 1 science, and in 2 English language arts classes. So within this classroom setting, the special education children, which are my students, are included and emerge with general education peers. So the students that I am in charge of are diagnosed with a wide range of specific learning disability, emotional disability, ADHD, autism, as well as mild intellectual disabilities. So furthermore, both students allocated within this general education and special education groups are unaware unaware
Mhm.
that I am the special education teacher, and that co-teacher that I'm co-teach with is the general education teacher. So this
Oh,
kind of strategy has been
yes.
placed
Yeah.
so as to avoid the stigmatization of students and
Mhm.
to further avoid divisiveness,
Yes.
especially during the formative years of our young children's lives. So where their experience are during the school help shape who they become as an adults later on in life. So as you mentioned a while ago, IEP, right? So
Yes.
it's a common term for all the special education teachers. So as a special education teacher, you are given students with an IEP under your caseload. Like
Yes.
currently in this year, I have 22, meaning
Okay.
22 kids under
Yes.
my caseload. So an individualized education plan or program, that's IEP. It's also
Okay.
known as an IEP. So this is a federal document. So
Mhm.
federal. So it's
Yes.
not a joke. So we are preparing a federal document
Whoa.
which lays out the plan or program developed to ensure that the child with an identified disability receives specially designed instruction and
Yeah.
related services. So when you say related services, it could be speech language therapy, it could be physical therapy, it could be counseling, it
Yeah.
could be occupational therapy, so such things. So
Yeah.
as a case carrier, you are advocating for this child. That's why I mentioned a while ago, IEP advocate. So
Yeah.
close, you have a close contact with parents oftentimes. So at
Okay.
the same time with the teachers who are your co-teaching with this child. So one of the crucial thing that we are doing every single year, every single day, I mean,
Yeah.
assessing the current level of academic and
Yeah.
functional skills of the child. Like, for example, how's the functional level of the child in terms of reading, in
Okay.
terms of reading comprehension, in terms of math, in
Yeah.
terms of his emotional abilities, his fine motor skills, and so on. So there's a lot. And at the same time, this is the challenges that most of the special education teachers, for example, most Filipino teachers who come here, this is
Yeah.
one of the common challenges that you have to face, is to prepare
Yeah.
and facilitate. When you say facilitate, you are the facilitator for the IEP meetings. So
Yeah.
it involves the whole team. So whole team means the parents of the child. It
Yeah.
could be the child,
Yeah.
the administration composed of principal, assistant principal. It could be psychologists. It involves
Yeah.
the psychologist. It involves the speech and language pathologist. It involves occupational therapist, social worker, so on and so forth, and also advocate. Like, for example, if the child is under belongs to Native American descent, so there's also an advocate person who's gonna join the meeting as well. And also, you are responsible to finalize that IEP and eventually implement
Yes.
what is written, especially the goals for the entire year. For example, when the goal is all about math, you
Mhm.
have to implement that math goals. If you're talking about reading skills, goals, I mean, you have to implement that skills that you're talking about. So
Ooh.
that's basically the crucial job of being a special education teacher.
So you've got to be very good at many, many subjects. You've
Correct.
and
I'm
you've
teaching
got
three
to,
subjects.
yeah, make sure that they are developed holistically, because you're
Correct.
not just talking about one subject, even
Yeah.
their personality, the way that
Correct.
they function in the society. I
Yes.
am interested in what you said, that you are incorporating these students with general education. So
Correct.
you are a co-teacher for special education and there's another teacher for general education, but if it's in a face-to-face classroom setting, you they are all in one classroom.
Yes, correct. So there are two teachers in one classroom.
Yeah.
However, the uniqueness of this class, it's called inclusion class. These kids, it could be the child with IEP or without IEP. They don't know exactly who am I, who's the teacher. They
Yeah.
know exactly that I have two teachers in one class.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's the
is
beauty.
awesome, that is
Yeah, that's
great.
called
Yeah.
mainstreaming
Yes.
program.
So that is an interesting career and a very challenging one at that.
Yes.
How did you get into being a special education teacher there in Arizona?
So it was certainly quite the journey that it had its own set of ups and downs, as its restaurant in most of the immigrants coming to the United States. Through my connections and friendship back in the Philippines, I was able to find the path for myself
Yeah.
that met all the personal goals that I've set back in way back 2000 something, way back 2006, six, I mean,
Yeah.
through perseverance, determination, and having the right skills. You
Yes.
should have the right skills, set of skills and previous background experience. I've been blessed to forge my own path coming here in the US.
Yeah. And so you have mentioned that before you were doing an in person, and there was a time that you did a virtual
Mhm.
classroom with this setting, with this pandemic. So what are the new normal ways of teaching, Miss Martha?
Okay, so as is permitting and common throughout the world, and not only unique to Arizona, we are
Yes.
all currently undertaking some form of online teaching and classes. So specifically for my school district and the school that I'm currently working at, the parents of our student body were given two options. So
Okay.
the first being a hybrid model. It's called hybrid model, which entails that the students will go to school 4 times per week in the morning. And in
Okay.
the afternoons, they will have asynchronous assignments.
Mhm.
This means that if the student has 7 classes, so in the morning, he or she will attend 4 classes in person.
Okay.
So the student will have a synchronous assignment for the remaining classes for the afternoon. While the second option being that the child will stay at home the entire time. So
Mhm.
most of the kids like they are afraid to go back to school. So while having asynchronous assignments in the morning
Mhm.
and Zoom classes in the afternoon with teachers. So basically in the morning in person and in the afternoon Zoom classes. That's how we it goes here in our school district. So furthermore, on Wednesday, so everyone is at home. So both teachers and students are in Zoom classes all day. So
Oh,
that's the beauty of our new teaching, new normal ways of teaching.
yeah. And you have easily adapted to it.
Yes, yes. So far, so good.
For you, what works and what does not work?
Oh, well, this is quite the loaded questions. And answering such a question could take like an entire day, which we are of course not going to do today. But for simplicity's sake and
Just the
time
main thing.
consideration, I can give you a few examples in teaching which continues to work for the school I currently teach at. So one thing that works is the streamlined platform that we use at our school district. So we're in, we use one platform we
Yes.
can access at school and remotely from home. So everything we need to conduct our classes, to talk to our students, co-teachers, and even school administrators are within this platform. So a concrete example of this, during our online classes, I'm able to see if my students are consistently answering questions wrong or
Mhm.
incorrect. The systems give me an alert. I
Oh,
can step in and
yeah.
intervene to either redirect the student or to personally have a one-on-one chat with the student. So one downside that I can see is the
Mhm.
fact that there is a less student teacher engagement happening during an online class,
Yeah.
due to the fact that some students, especially most of my kids are already in preteens, they choose to keep their cameras off, which
Yeah.
can
And then
really
they can do something else while attending
yeah, which
class.
can really diminish the engagement, or worse, some students do not respond at all. You keep in calling, hey, oh, kindly respond. Hey, are you still there or what?
Yeah.
We didn't hear anything. So with this scenarios arise, it can diminish productivity during
Yeah.
classes.
But can you require them to turn on their cameras and their microphone or even just mute themselves, but turn on their camera so that you can see them?
No.
Oh
At
no.
first, that's one of the protocols when
Yeah.
we started the online thingy,
Yeah.
platform. It's one of the protocol that they need to be turn on. They need to turn on their cameras. However,
Yeah.
eventually there are a lot of parents that they don't want that idea, like
Oh.
the privacy of their house and so on and so forth. So eventually, it's the prerogative of the students, if and only if they want to
Yeah.
turn on their camera, unmute themselves, whatever. But there are teachers who's trying to could you please turn on your camera for purposes of verification
Yeah.
and for attendance as well. And
Yes.
then you can turn it off as long as you have to tell me you're there in there like
Yeah.
that. That's one of the challenges nowadays.
Yes. But what works in an online classroom setting?
What works,
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the things that I've mentioned. What that really works is that, let me think, the only thing that works, I guess, is that I can simply see
Yeah.
thoroughly or during the time that they're working on a certain assignment that's asked for.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can simply see that, hey, this one is wrong. Hey, could you please
Yes.
edit this one? Hey, I can simply do that.
Yes. Now you're back to in person, right? You've
Mhm.
mentioned that now
Yeah,
they have a choice. Now you're back to in person
yeah.
classroom setting. So what are the protocols that you've got to follow?
So in terms of our COVID protocols, the United States has been tirelessly and swiftly trying to vaccinate its people, especially here in Arizona. So, as part of the government's protocol, I have already received my first dose of Moderna vaccine. Since I am a teacher, that's one of the priorities here in Arizona. I'm actually due to get my second dose of vaccine by tomorrow. I'm scared actually.
Good for
So,
you.
so within our school, we have strict measures in place, such as restricting the number of students per class, with the
Mhm.
maximum number of students per class being 17 in my case. So
Yeah.
there is also plexiglasses in place between each student, between their desks, to lessen the contact between student and another student. So the student and the teachers are also mandated to wear a mask at all times during the class, which is really, really challenging. So
Yeah.
there are temperatures check at the
Yeah.
front office, and
Mhm.
all the teachers are required to check in
Mhm.
every single day and have their temperature checked. And then
Yes.
we are subsequently given an N95 mask every Monday.
Mhm.
And we are not, oh, sorry, this is very new. We are not allowed to
Mhm.
distribute any classroom materials anymore, so
Yeah.
as to lessen the amount of physical contact and to lessen the physical distance between teachers and students. So each classroom now has a humidifier to help with the constant flow of clean air and allow for nonstop purification of the air that is within the classroom. So also, um, this is also one of the things that you're doing
Yeah.
during passing periods. So
Yeah.
in between classes, like for 10 minutes, teachers are required to thoroughly disinfect. And this includes meticulously cleaning and
Oh,
sanitizing the
yeah. Yeah.
desk, the
True.
chairs, and all the surfaces and the tools that the students or teachers may have been in contact with. And also, prior to entering the class, the students are also required to sanitize,
Yes.
and the same rules apply at the end of each class, which my kids doesn't like it. It's so sticky, miss.
The work has just doubled, right? It has just doubled
True.
and it has become more difficult. And sometimes kids would
True.
like a hug if they need someone to hug. You can't do that
Yeah.
anymore. Oh,
That's one.
yeah, that's very challenging. But
Challenging.
are there a lot of Filipinos where you are?
I have been fortunate enough to have been surrounded by Filipinos since the beginning of my move here to teach in the US. So
Mhm.
within my school, current school, there are 5 Filipinos, 3 from Bacolod City, so one
Wow, that's
from
good.
Zamboanga and one from Cebu. So I may be partial in saying this, but it does help, I think, in my part,
Yeah.
significantly to have fellow Bacolod nons
Yes.
here thousands of miles away from home. Not only does it takes um transition easier
Yeah.
in terms of having people around you that
Yes.
are also going through relatively the same challenges here in America.
Yeah.
Adding to that, it also been extremely homey to be able to speak our native language dialect, Ilonggo.
Correct.
So beyond that, it's also been a great to be able to eat Filipino food.
Wow.
Last Saturday, we were able to eat Bacolod barbecue. So it's
Good
like,
for you.
yeah, far away from home. So in terms of adjustments itself, living here in America is not a shock to me.
Yeah.
As I have been to America previously to visit my sister in Boston, the lifestyle itself is not something new or foreign to me so
Yeah.
far. So there was a little to adjust in terms of that. So
Yeah.
the adjustment themselves were more apparent in
Yeah.
my day-to-day life as a teacher here in Arizona. So
Yeah.
the differences are stark when comparing the teaching methods of the US and the Philippines. That's,
Like you've mentioned, the differences are stark.
yeah.
Like how different? What are the differences, if you can mention?
Actually, in terms of behavior management, classroom management is really huge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's another thing that we're gonna talk about next
Yes.
time. It's really huge.
But
One another
yes,
a topic to talk about.
Martha, you have mentioned earlier that your credentials have helped you be there in Arizona. For the benefit of those who are dreaming to teach in the United States of America, what are the credentials that are needed to be a teacher there?
Okay, so there are so many requirements to teach here in the US. It's not
Yeah,
really a joke.
yeah,
So first and foremost, a bachelor's degree in education is a must.
yeah,
So a master's degree is preferred, and with it will also give you a significant edge
Yeah.
in terms of salary competitiveness.
Right.
Speaking of salary, the years of number of years of experiences and level of education is absolutely crucial to have of having a higher salary. So there's also a mandate of minimum of 2 years experience teaching in a given subject area. So there's also a demand for science, math, especially for special education teachers here in America. So there are various states that are specifically accepting Filipino teachers. For
Mhm.
example, Arizona,
Yeah.
New Mexico,
Yeah.
Colorado, North and South Carolina,
Yeah.
California. There's also Texas and North and South Dakota. There's also Alaska. I've heard recently there's also Montana and Illinois. So there is also a need for police clearance with fingerprints. You know, America is very serious about their safety and homeland security. And
Yeah.
of course, a course by course evaluation of your transcript is also needed to ascertain if your course and your corresponding grades are good enough for the
Yeah.
US standard. And last but not the least, a teacher's certificate. You need to be a LET passer,
Yeah.
the PRC let license for the teachers, and license reciprocity is also required once you apply in a certain state. So
Yeah.
all of these requirements can be found online within the
Mhm.
specific website of the school district that you are really interested in. So all the information is given in a
Yeah.
very clear way, and all the steps are laid out for you to follow.
Yes. And you have been there since 2019, correct?
Yes,
So
correct.
how do you find the experience so far? You seem happy and satisfied with
It's a
work.
real roller coaster ride, and most commonly for the first year is really challenging. But
Mhm.
eventually, if you get all the system, you find yourself part of the system. It seems like it's easy.
Because you are very adaptable. You adjust
Yeah.
quickly and you are very resilient. Perhaps that's why, too. No, so, mentioning those things, what are the qualities that are needed to excel there as a teacher?
I think the one that I mentioned a while ago, you need to be determined to
Yeah.
learn a lot of things,
Yeah.
and you're open to all of the things that they're gonna teach you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we're talking about culture,
Yeah.
there will be such thing as culture shock, and you
Yeah.
keep on you tend to compare that's going on in the Philippines, that's going here, and there's a stress level there
Yes.
eventually. So
For
you
sure.
must be open and
Yeah.
determined to learn
Mhm.
and to relearn what you learned before.
Yeah, okay. That is really good to
Yeah.
learn and to relearn what you have learned before. Apart from culture shock, what are the challenges that you have experienced being there?
Especially teaching during
Yeah,
COVID. So
especially
for
teaching
yeah,
during COVID. Yeah,
yeah, for me as someone is very expressive and tactile as a person, it has been, as what you mentioned, oh well, it has been very difficult not to have this face-to-face contact with my students, as they have become very dear to me. I
yeah,
miss being able to interact with my students on a day-to-day basis. So I miss the chatter within the classroom and speaking to my students on a more human level. So I miss being able to hug my students, oh my god, and hearing them say good morning, miss, how are you, how's your week, and everything such that. Since the conversation recently, it's more on academics, so
yeah,
it's quite different nowadays. So I miss this human interaction factor that has been placed on a global pause since the pandemic has started. And I'm sure
yeah,
I'm not the only one who feels this way. So apart from this, I think there's also a certain limitations that we teachers now have to deal with. So
yeah,
in terms of being limited in the tools we can use to relay our teachings. So
yeah.
I told you ago, we cannot use tactile materials. We
Correct.
now have to fully use digital programs, which again
Mhm.
loses that human interaction factor I previously mentioned. But
Yeah,
they just allow us teachers to be a little more creative
yeah.
in how we conduct our classes and how to fully maximize our online classes.
Yes. What about the kids that you're teaching, your students? How do you think they have coped? How well are they coping?
Actually, good thing with my kids, they're trying their best. However, there are a lot of challenges along the way, and there's also a lot of um communication at the same time with parents that
Yeah.
I need your help. This is going to be not only my work, at the same time I need your help as well.
Yeah.
So good thing with the kids, they trying their best to cope on what's going on nowadays,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of challenges for especially for the kids who has this behavior.
Yeah.
They really have the hard time to cope up what's going on since they have to follow a visual schedule and they what they've used to. So it's
Yes.
so hard to explain to them that you have to wear your mask, you have
Mhm.
to cover your nose.
And then you can
It's
see
those
the
kind of
facial expression, which is very
things.
important as well.
Yeah.
So, how do kids, shall I say, what is the attitude of the kids
Mhm,
there in the US? What is
mhm.
the difference of their attitude there compared to the kids here in the Philippines? Not
Yeah,
here, because I'm in Vancouver.
actually, I got a lot of information to talk about this one, but when it comes to talking about trying to compare students from the US and the Philippines, it's like really comparing apples and oranges. So
Oh,
comparison
yeah,
yeah, a
that's
comparison
a
simply
comparison.
cannot be drawn. It would be
Yeah,
impossible to reduce. I think my multicultural students here in the US, that is already one major difference
yeah,
between the students in the US and in the Philippines. So teaching the Philippines means teaching a very homogeneous mix of students. This means most of the students are purely 100% Filipinos, right? So
yeah,
while teaching in the United States, I'm exposed to students that I would not have cross paths within my classroom in the Philippines. So like for
yeah,
example, in my sixth grade class here in Arizona, it's composed of students
yeah,
from different walks of life, socio-economic backgrounds, and cultures as well. For
yeah.
example, I have students who are African Americans, other Central and South Asians, Latinos. I have also Native American Indians. So the diversity in that alone, you can find in a normal classroom,
Correct.
regular classroom in the Philippines. So beyond culture, I think students in the United States do not have what you call a paternalistic view of the student teacher relationship. It's kind of different actually. Students here in the US, even though as young as 11 years old, are already very opinionated and they are taught to speak their minds.
Yes.
So there's a lot of why, miss, why? So this idea of us absolute respect to our teachers that we have in Filipino culture is somewhat diluted here in America due to the, I think, intrinsically opinionated and vocal ways of my students or the culture itself. So another
Yeah.
very stark difference is the incorporation of religion in school.
Yeah.
Here in the US, no such incorporation happens because I think there's a very clear separation of church and state in the US as
Yeah.
laid out in the US Constitution. So we do not have prayer in school, which is pretty common in the Philippines, right? So
Yes.
anything remotely religious, this is of course understandable from the viewpoint of teacher here in the US. So because we are teaching a very diverse student body, which means that my students also adhere to differing beliefs and faiths.
Yeah.
So that's pretty common. Like for example, there's one scenario I keep on laughing every time I think about it. There's one new Filipino teacher. He just arrived, and
Yeah.
then first day I co-teach with her. The first day she attended her class, she asked all the kids to stand up, and the typical Filipino
And
way,
pray.
like, yeah, can you greet me good morning? And everyone, what? Miss Martha, what she's talking about? Because she's just new, and she told the class, can we say a prayer first? And then my father, and it was, I'm gonna tell my dad what you're doing. I was, oh my god, I was really shocked. So I
Oh,
grabbed my co-teacher and told him, you're not allowed to do that because
oh, so it's entirely different. It's like Earth
entirely
and Mars.
really different. Yes.
It's really challenging. So,
Yes.
isn't there a training for teachers from the Philippines when they teach there? I think there should be. Like they have to be oriented, what they can and what they can't do.
Yes, we do have. So every start of the school year, not only Filipinos,
Mhm.
there are rigid trainings in terms
Yeah,
of about American culture, about the school system in America, even to the extent of, for example, fire drill, those kind of things. We're
yeah,
able relate to us.
yeah. But sometimes habits die hard, right?
Yeah. We get used to that, right? We get used to that. So we're hoping to change the world, but the world is quite different here.
Yeah. Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, it is an eye opener, and it is actually very difficult for some who have been very much accustomed to doing things the way they do in the Philippines and
Mhm.
teach something new there in the US. How, like, how did you adjust to that kind of life and teaching?
Actually, it just all goes back to the basic premise of why did I become an educator? That's my motivation.
Yes.
So, and there are many answers to this. So I
Wow.
became an educator because I attain an overwhelming level of gratification when I know that I'm able to steer and
Yeah.
mold my students in a way that will release their highest potentials. Like, for example, even because as a special education teacher, you are expected to contact the parents often
Yeah.
or most of the time. So I really see to it that even just a simple achievement of my kids, I usually text the parents. Hey,
Oh,
Mrs. Like this, like that. I'm so happy. I'm so glad and put a smile on my face. Your child was able to finish one skill during the entire class, so on and so forth. So I feel so happy about that.
yeah.
And also, I became an educator because I truly want to affect others in a positive way as a JCI, and I
Yeah.
want to be a part of the solution. I want to be part of the solution does not allow us to disenfranchise those in a society that have it could be emotional or learning disabilities. So I'm here to advocate for the acceptance of neurodiversity, that we're all unique in our own way and we have something unique to bring to the table.
Yeah.
Also, I became, this is also one of my motivation, I became an educator because I want to be part of the change that allows for the betterment of the people, especially for my kids. I truly believe that things change one
Mhm.
person at a time.
Yeah.
I believe in teaching my students to do better in every facet of their lives. So they usually ask me, why, miss? Why do I have to do that? Why do I need to respect? So simple as that. So, but ultimately, I'm able to continue to be motivated and focused because I still have so many more personal goals for myself that I want to attain. So, in part, I have started a new Instagram account that
Okay.
shows my
What?
personal style and shows a glimpse of my life here in Arizona as a special education teacher in a way that celebrates creativity, expression, and somehow uniqueness.
Yes. I
Yeah,
think
that's
my
it.
connection got bad. I wanted you to repeat that. What's your Instagram account?
It's retro, retro dot sped, sped, retro dot sped.
Yeah. I think when you have mentioned that you've got to be able to answer their questions, patience is key. Patience and
True,
love.
true.
Very important to be able to bring out the best from these children who need special education from
Mhm.
you. So you are quite an angel for doing things for them, making sure that they're functional. How
Yes.
do, like, you have already shared with us how you keep yourself motivated? What do you tell yourself when there are bad days, when there are sad days, when things get really, really tough? What do you tell yourself?
Okay, of course I have bad days, and anyone telling you otherwise is just a flat lying. So we have all our own so-called bad days. When I encounter, for example, difficult scenarios with my students, I'm being 100% honest and real with you because I don't want to sugarcoat things.
Yes.
And if there's someone there listening to my video right now who is looking forward to teach here in the US, I would like to somewhat give aside what's really like. So
Yeah.
I would have particular days where I would have highly emotionally and incredibly draining days with my students. That's draining in a way that is, it could be physical, it could be mental, and oh my God, it could be emotional. I have dealt with my students talking back to me using very harsh curse words.
Wow.
When I say horse, it's
Huh.
really harsh
Oh,
that just simply cross a line.
yes.
True, true.
Yeah.
I felt incredibly disheartened And
Yeah.
to be honest, somewhat sad because of the demands of my job as a
Yeah.
teacher at times are very difficult, and they really require you to muster up the courage to, oh my God, I need to wake up the next day and go to school and teach again. So it
Yeah.
is quite shocking to have 11 or 12-year-old cursing at you as a teacher. I
Oh,
was just shocked, yeah, when it
11 years
happened to
old.
me.
Yeah, 11 years
That's
old.
reality here,
Yeah.
because this kind of scenarios is just right unthinkable in the Philippines. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I'm always able to shift my focus and take a step back. I'm able to have some perspective on the matter and take into account the harsh reality of my students have to deal with. And this is pretty common of most of our trainings. And
Yeah.
admin gonna tell us most of the time that my students, our students, they have had to deal with their own traumas as well, such as verbal and physical abuse, and even sexual abuse is a history that is common among my students. And I've
Yeah.
also had students with parents currently incarcerated or
Yeah.
have experienced homelessness.
Yeah.
True. Or being inside the foster care system, which means that they have no fit parents or relatives to take care of them. No lola, no lolo, no tita,
So
right? Just
extended
like,
family. Yeah.
yes, these are realities that force these children to grow much more sooner, I think, than necessary. So this kind of backgrounds harden a child, and
Mhm.
they cease to become children. Instead, they become more like hardened adults,
Yeah.
which cause them to react or even project their issues and inner hurts
Yeah.
and deep buried traumas. So although all these things considered, it's all about your mindsets as a teacher. So one bad day, so I keep on telling myself, one bad day does not mean you have a bad life, Martha.
Correct.
I always choose to move on, and I always choose to be in more positive mindset, because does not only benefit me, but it's all benefit other around me, some other teachers that around me. So we must not I think that's a this is such a thing that most of the teachers must have to deal with. We must not dwell on negativity,
Yeah.
because that will neither fix nor amend your
Yeah.
situation. I always choose to remain with the mindset of positivity despite of everything. So it's pretty common here, Miss Chari, that kids really shout on you,
Oh.
as in front of you, gonna tell you shut up,
Oh my. Good.
as in with the comma and the bi
Oh
something.
my. So
As
in
in,
the
they're gonna tell you
Philippines,
that. Shut up.
there's
Boom.
there's Christian living education, values education. In the US, is there such thing there?
Yes, they do have,
Oh.
but it's not that rigid compared to the Philippines. Yeah,
Okay.
there is. There's also restorative programs for the kids who are having troubles.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a lot of programs here that
Yeah.
who could help those kids. But at the end of the day, that's what I mentioned a while ago. That's
Yeah.
pretty common. But most of the administrator gonna tell us, always think of
Mhm.
what these kids are dealing with.
Yeah.
It's not about you, it's about them. That's
Perfect.
what they keep on telling them. So kung sa atin pa, hindi mo pagpatulan.
Yeah, that is why there has to be patience
Yes,
and love.
yes, correct. So hindi mo lang
Selflessness
patutulan.
as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's your message to your fellow teachers in special education?
Actually, there's a lot of my students who keep on messaging me about on the path to take if they want to be a special ed teacher in the Philippines. So
Yeah.
for me, you need to prepare yourself.
Mhm.
It's not a happy what I call this happy path most of the time. There are a lot of challenges that you have to face. As I mentioned a while ago, you have to face the IEP. It's not a joke to facilitate IEP. That's one thing
That's
that
a lot.
there's a lot. It's a federal document. It's
Yeah.
not a joke. And
Yeah.
you have to face these people and this IEP document or the scenarios in each kid. It's different.
Mhm.
So you have to face its challenges in a different way, in different like for example, I have 22 kids. It's different scenario every single in single cases. So those are the things that you have to deal with. You have to be familiarized. That's one thing that I've realized, Miss Shari, because I used to be an associate professor, right? I teach special ed back in college and also in graduate school. I was really good in teaching with all the things in special ed, but
Yeah.
when I came here,
Mhm.
Oh my God, this is reality about special ed. It's all about talking. And
Yeah.
that if you're ready in front of you, it's already in front of you. Oh my God, it's quite different. So
Yes.
we need to be ready in
Yeah.
and every facet of our lives, to be emotionally ready,
Mhm.
physically ready. Like for
Yeah.
example, in my part as an inclusion teacher, I need to move from one classroom to another classroom. So you need to be physically ready,
And
emotionally
that's
ready.
not near, right? That's far from each other,
Yes,
the
correct.
classrooms.
Yes, correct. If it's science, it's in the science lab. So if
Yeah.
it's math, it's a math area. So I need to walk from one classroom to another classroom.
Yeah.
So also emotional ready. That's the most ultimate thing that you have to prepare of. You need to be emotional ready because, oh my God, the reality of teaching kids here in the US, it's way different in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So physically, emotionally, mentally, everything. You need to be ready.
Yeah. If there's one value that you would like to keep and impart to your students, what would that be?
I always keep on telling my students, teaching them the word respect, respect. So they don't as I go back once again, they keep on telling me that basically they don't know exactly what's respect, the essence of respect.
Yeah.
What's the essence of respect to the people, like for example your teachers, to your family or everything. They don't know exactly the essence of that word, so I keep on teaching just a simple word, but it's hard for them to understand what's all about respect.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I always tell my kids, to respect others, but simply being honest, being loving in everything, every aspect, respect. It's the one thing that I always tell them.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You have shared so much, Miss Martha. That was wonderful. I have learned a lot from you, especially the disparity of culture, the multicultural students that you've got there. Quite an interesting and very challenging job for you.
Yeah,
How
it
do you
is.
keep yourself happy and entertained?
Um, well, um, do I say this? Actually, I find so many ways to entertain myself here in Tucson. It's a big city, so I'm a quite the self-confessed, a social butterfly. So I occupy my weekends by spending time with my friends. So most of home are Filipino teachers. So
Yeah.
we sometimes have these so-called Filipino parties, which are always
Yeah.
filled with good food, karaoke, TikTok, even
Very
movie
good.
marathon, even greater company because we came from a different cities back in the Philippines. So
Yeah.
recently, since the weather have been getting hotter here in Arizona,
Yeah.
it's almost 100.
Oh,
With the springtime approaching, we have been frequenting the pools in our apartment and just relaxing during the weekend. So I want to take this time now to give a shout out to my friends here in Tucson. So hello to Carol Torda. I'm pretty sure they're gonna watch this. Edson Rojas, Cristel Blanco, Joseph Ocero, Christina Gasper, Mary Rose and Lidon Saicon, Jasmine Vercar, Phil Cantilep, Nang Lizelle Castillon, Jason Luniza, Rizal Indoria, Marvin Bangoy, Mylene Roles, Almira Sadaya, Crizel Amante, and even my best buddy since day one, Christine Julio is already in North Dakota, and Andrea Pasilan is somewhere in another city in Arizona. And I'm extremely grateful for each and every single one of you, and I cannot express enough my deep gratitude for all of you. But other than that, I speak to my incredible husband every single day, daily, to keep up with the events there back happening in the Philippines, and to
yeah.
never lose touch with my family also and love ones there back in the Philippines. I'm also often on FaceTime with my nieces. So especially with me niece who's currently living in Amsterdam studying neurosurgery. Nikki, hi.
That's good. You're so bubbly and so, yeah, so inspiring. How do you keep yourself inspired in closing?
um Inspiration, actually it depends on the person. It's I'm inspired because I usually do affirmation every single day to be positive. Yeah, I do that every single day. When I wake up, there's a series of affirmation sound that I usually listen to motivate myself to get up for my purpose. why I'm still awake, why I'm here in this world. So I usually listen to that one so that I will go back to the premise why I'm here in this world,
Yeah.
to be a better person, to be of service of another person, to be better.
Wonderful. Yes. To be better all the time. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we have the same mission and we have the
Yeah.
same service to humanity is the
It's the
best.
best work of life.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me. And I'm so happy that we have gotten in touch. Stay happy, stay well, and keep doing a great job there in Tucson, Arizona.
Yes, I missed you.
I miss you too. And keep in touch, okay?
Yes, I'll do.
Yes, I've just talked to Press Martha Rose or Miss Martha Rose Isiderio-Gutierrez. This is Life Expressions, and I'm Chari Hinete Elon. Please show some love if you like this episode. Share it with your friends. You can also download it and share it on your social media account. Till next time, here on Life Expressions. Thank you, Press Martha.